The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to the Lord.
Jesus spoke to the crowds and to his disciples, saying, "The scribes and the Pharisees have taken their seat on the chair of Moses. Therefore, do and observe all things whatsoever they tell you, but do not follow their example. For they preach, but they do not practice. They tie up heavy burdens hard to carry and lay them on people's shoulders, but they will not lift a finger to move them. All their works are performed to be seen. They widen their phylacteries and lengthen their tassels. They love places of honor at banquets, seats of honor in synagogues, greetings in marketplaces, and the salutation, Rabbi. As for you, do not be called Rabbi. You have but one teacher, and you are all brothers. Call no one on earth your father. You have but one Father in heaven. Do not be called master. You have but one master, the Christ. The greatest among you must be your servant. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, but whoever humbles himself will be exalted." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
A group of young Christians had gathered from all over the world to attend a conference on evangelization. They got to see videos, they were introduced to many book titles, they read some thoughtful essays, and they heard inspiring talks by some of the most learned people in the field. When the conference ended, a young woman from Africa rose and gave her opinion of what she just experienced. In my country, when a pagan village is ready to receive the gospel, we don't send videos or books or even missionaries. We send the best Christian family we can find, because it is the example of family life well led that speaks more powerfully than all the books or evangelists in the world. I love this story for its simple point, that God works best and most effectively through loving and nurturing relationships. The family is core to this vision God has. And while my family, the one I grew up in, would not have been chosen to help a pagan village embrace the gospel, my family did help me to embrace Christ and his good news. My dad led by example. We prayed before every meal. We went to church every Sunday and Holy Day. And we never missed Mass while we were on vacation. Dad was the spiritual head of our family, and my mother, while not yet baptized at the time I was growing up, my mother was the spiritual heart. I went to Catholic school, and in those days, Catholic schools were all black. I mean, the nuns wore black. There was this one lay teacher in the school when I was growing up there, and all the rest were nuns. School Sisters of St. Francis out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, wonderful, wonderful women. But this was the 50s. The Vatican Council on Ecumenism had not yet occurred, and there were Catholics and there were non-Catholics. And the non-Catholics were decidedly inferior in Sister's view. And so we would hear different things that would be sort of remarks, sometimes somewhat snide remarks. Like just one that I came home with was, Sister said that Protestant churches smell different. And Mom kind of smiled. She'd been to church with us every Sunday all my life. She said, well, probably because they don't have all those candles burning that you find in the Catholic churches. And when Sister implied that non-Catholics weren't very good people, my mother would simply remind me of my aunt and uncle, her brother, and his wife, who went to church every Sunday to the Methodist Church and were my best buddies ever. So Protestants couldn't have been all bad. The theme of this Sunday's readings is the importance of living one's beliefs, not simply giving lip service, not simply making a show, not using one's religious beliefs or customs as weapons to bludgeon other people with, or medals of honor to wear with pride. In the time of the prophet Malachi, the Hebrews had returned to their homeland after more than 50 years in exile. They were a people who were lost. I mean, their spiritual compass had been jarred. And the unfortunate thing was that they lacked caring spiritual leaders. Their priests and teachers had been more interested in securing whatever comfortable position might be possible rather than in being true shepherds of their people. Jesus would wind up criticizing, centuries later, some of the same behaviors in the religious leaders of his day. While the rabbis and the scribes had the seat of Moses, that is to say, what they said, how they interpreted the law was to be followed, they sometimes did that with heavy-handed authority, and they were less concerned with how their people could experience God's loving presence. Jesus, for his part, would invite people to call upon God as Father. Not Lord and Master, not tyrant. Because if they could call on God as Father, then maybe, just maybe, they would begin to see one another as brothers and sisters, ready and could be ready to serve one another as families do. This vision of community with family at its core is no less difficult today and no less necessary than it was then. We are arguably a faith family. Here I'm addressing primarily the community of Holy Trinity Parish in Edinburgh. But the same is true at St. Bartholomew. There may be a difference in size of those communities, but the same task is there, to be family with one another. We have responsibilities, not just responsibilities of our own to live up to, but responsibilities to one another, and responsibilities as a community to the larger community of which we are a part. Right now, if you go down Home Avenue off of 31, you'll see between St. Bartholomew Church and the school some modest beginnings to what will be this construction project that we've been working toward over the last several years of planning. And it's a modest enough undertaking, but it's still going to run around $3 million to do all the work that we've got to do. And it's going to house new youth ministry space and then administrative offices. Not terribly exciting, but I've been gratified. I've been encouraged by the way the people of St. Bartholomew have embraced this and have been supportive of it financially. But I'm also very grateful for how, over these past 20 years of my being pastor at St. Bartholomew, people have responded again and again. And I know you've responded to the same things because the calls go out to all of us for those second collections. Sometimes they're for the missions. Very often they're for a response and charity to some devastating event, maybe a natural disaster or whatever. And it's always over and above what one is giving to the regular care of the church. And time again, people have responded with love. I think what's most important is that our belief in God's goodness is reflected in our loving support of our parish communities and of the larger church of which we are a part. And its In this case, the mission of the Archdiocese of Indianapolis in southern and central Indiana. Next Sunday is Commitment Sunday, when we will fill out our pledge cards in response to, for us at St. Bartholomew's, I'm not sure if do you combine your parish stewardship and the United Catholic Appeal, or do you separate them out? You separate them out, okay. We combine them, so we think maybe that's less painful, but I don't know if it is. But in any case, so this next week you'll be making your commitment to the Archdiocese, and then in Lent, I suppose it'll be in Lent that you'll have the stewardship call or something. I'm not sure. I don't take anything I say about that seriously. Everything else. Anyway, we do the combined one. So in other words, our card that we fill out has one portion of it is for the United Catholic Appeal, and the other portion of it is for, the bigger portion of it actually, is for parish support. And we have been doing the in-pew appeal, so we do it actually during the Mass. That has its pluses and its minuses, but that's the way we've done it for the last couple of years, and it's been pretty successful. And what we're responsible for, of course, is that we carry out the mission of the church and support not only our buildings, but also the programs that take place in them and the people that we need to carry them out. And I join in this. I shared with them last night here at Mass a story that people of St. Bartholomew have heard already. When I was first assigned to a parish as associate pastor, I thought the offertory was for everybody else. I mean, I'm the priest. Look what I've given up. I'm the one that's doing all this for you, and so you are the ones that have to pay to keep it all going. Well, that was fine for those 4 years when I was associate pastor. When I got to St. Monica's, my first parish, and opened the mail for that first week, here is a packet of envelopes with the Reverend Pastor on there. I thought, oh, crap. I mean, my predecessor, I didn't know this for sure, but I thought, oh my gosh, he probably has been giving in this envelope. So if I don't, that'll stand out like a sore thumb, So I tried to come up with some, I think $25 or something. I'll put that in, maybe that'll satisfy people. Well, that's the way I started. It was kind of a grudging thing. I wanted to do this. To embracing, as pastor of the parish, I have a responsibility as well. I'm earning my keep, yes, but I have a responsibility to support these ministries. So I have year for year increase what I give. And I had thought I had made up my mind just what I was going to do for this year, this coming year, and up my giving from last year by about 2%, and I think that's fine. Well, we've got a couple positions that are needing filled. We're going to be having searches going on, trying to bring in a couple more people because our school population is up, our religious education population is up over 300 now from pre-K through 6, and we need some assistance. Our administrators need assistance. So anyway, this morning in that extra hour of sleep we were supposed to get, the cats had not been alerted to the fact that I had an extra hour coming, so they woke me up at the usual time, and I'm thinking 2% is probably not going to be enough. I need to consider doing maybe 7% increase. So anyway, I went through that, and it was an idea planted in my mind, and I'm pretty sure it's from God, so that's what I'm going to do. And I just shared that with you so that you can be thinking between now and next week, what have I done this year, and can I do more? Because as you know, all expenses always go up. Can I do any more this year? And maybe you can't, but if you can, it's a great thing to have prepared yourself for prayerfully in the course of these next few days before you come together next Sunday. I just ask that you consider making an increase if you can in what you offer to your local parish and to the Archdiocese. We are all of us the hands and the feet of Christ, charged to be good news and to bring good news of Christ to the world. My mother, I've discovered, was doing that for me even before she was baptized. So she's sort of the model of how God uses everybody. God just doesn't work through baptized Catholics. God uses everybody to accomplish his will. I'm hoping that we can be the signs of what St. Paul witnessed and thanked God for in those final words of the second reading that we heard today. That in receiving the word of God from hearing us, you received not just a human word. You received not just a human word, but as it truly is, the word of God, which is now at work in you